Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. Also check me out on Twitch as Floyd Mason.
Hello, welcome back, Spooks fans. It's been a bit, but we are back. We are back with another Goosebumps review. Just been crazy busy lately. Actually read this one as well as the next book a while back. But see behind me, I have all new shelves in here. So just been super busy taking the old ones out, getting these new ones in, taking my collection on and off. So I've just fallen behind. But we are back with Piano Lessons Can Be Murder, book number 13 in the series. Just kind of got some hands playing on the piano there. The red colors is pretty nice. I'm a big fan of red in the first place, so just kind of the red backdrop here, kind of all the red browns or kind of maroony purple, maybe. Looks really cool. And then we also have the newer copy of it. Not as nice. I'll let you know right now. Don't like this one as much. The blue just doesn't fit. If they'd done a purple around it similar to this one, I think this cover would have been just the same and really cool. I think the purple all the way around as well would have been a nice touch as opposed to this one, but there you go. This one definitely is the better version. I mean, they are 95% of the time. I like it singled out than the total around version, but this is one I think could have worked with the full, just because of all the red in the background here. But Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Just read off my notes a bit on this one. As I said, I read this a while ago, so I kind of forget the order of stuff. So mainly the story is about a kid named Jerry, and his family's moved. And basically it starts off with him kind of faking that he sees mice and just playing with the fact that he's a prankster. So he does a lot of pranks in this book, usually on his parents. It's mostly at home. But just kind of playing it up so that later he's obviously going to be like, things happen and people aren't going to believe him. It's kind of one of those things at this point. And I'm trying to objectively think of the books kind of in order, thinking how Stein writes and like how he does them, that he's kind of built it now where he loves to show early kind of like that foreshadowing of, okay, the main kid is going to act this way and therefore everyone's going to react to him this way. It also talks about his cat at this point, Bonkers, who moved with him, and how much he hates the cat. It really doesn't. The cat doesn't. I mean, spoiler: the cat doesn't really come into effect at all. So I think it's just some early filler, kind of filling out the world and what he lives in. He has like one point later in the story, but that's about it. He starts exploring the house again. One of Stein's favorite things to do is family moves, and that's kind of the starting point. I'd actually be curious, and I might do this later at the end of looking at certain tropes that he loves to use and how many times he uses them. He loves having the two siblings. He loves moving to a new town or starting a new job, just like big ones. And he loves having like the weird friend that they kind of meet, like that weird person, and that extends, like Welcome to the House, like meeting that weird group of friends, or Monster Blood, and meeting his weird aunt, kind of deal. But he continues exploring the house, and one thing I really liked about this book is he sees a room and he suggests in his head that it could be the Nintendo room, which I love. I remember growing up, like our house didn't necessarily have one, but my grandparents, they kind of had like a Nintendo section. And it was just like a TV, and like literally was only really used to play Nintendo on in a little area of the house, which was great. And so I love the idea of a Nintendo room. I mean, it's basically what I built here, just with more than Nintendo systems. But I thought it was a cool thing of showing the times of Nintendo was king. It wasn't a PlayStation room, it wasn't a Sega room, it was a Nintendo room. So he continues exploring, and him and his dad go up to the attic. And the house had been mostly empty, but up there they find a piano. They don't know how it got there. They don't know why it was left, but there's a really nice piano up there. Jerry's kind of interested in it and whatnot. I can't remember if it happens now or a bit later, but he basically expresses interest in learning the piano. But that night when he goes to sleep, he hears piano music. So he's like, oh, maybe, it's a new house. I'm kind of freaked out. I saw the piano up there, so maybe it's kind of leaked into my subconscious. But he hears it, so he sneaks up to the attic. He kind of shouts out in the darkness, like, hey, who's there? What's going on? And the music stops. And he looks over the piano, and there's nothing there. So again, he just kind of is like, okay, what's going on? And at that point, his dad also comes upstairs. Jerry's like, hey, I heard music. I don't know, like really weird. But from the thing that's set up at the start, the dad just assumes that Jerry's playing prank, that he's up there messing around and makes up this lie to his dad, so he doesn't believe him. He's like, yeah, whatever, get back to bed. There's no piano. So the next day, the dad asks if Jerry wants to take lessons, and he says yes. So that's the part where he's like, yeah, you know what? I'd be interested in it. His dad's basically like, we can move it down from the attic. Like, if you're serious about it, if this is something you want to do, we will pay to have somebody move it down here to the main floor. But, you got to be serious about it. And Jerry's like, yep, like, that's something I want to do. Of course, he then scares his dad again because he's just an ass, really. Dad dropped the kettle on his foot. It's just, again, just kind of reiterating that fact that, like, no one's going to believe him because, like, even when he's being serious about this one thing, he's still just kind of being a jerk, scaring people, pranking people. It's just kind of who he is. So that night he hears music again. And again, he kind of just doesn't do anything about it this tonight. He doesn't want to go back up to the attic. And the next day they get movers in and they bring it down. So they move it down to the main floor instead of the attic. He then has a professor teacher named Dr. Shriek come and give him kind of an initial lesson. So how they kind of explain how these piano lessons work in the book is that they have a tutor come and see you at your home. And basically the tutor's kind of seeing if you have what it takes, see if you have the interest and the ability before they invite you to the actual school. And so Dr. Shriek comes, he has him, kind of play a few notes, and he comments on that he has excellent hands, that he could be a great pianist, and there's definitely a chance of him learning piano and getting to go to the school and learn it. So, Jerry's kind of excited. He doesn't think he did much, but, and he thinks it's odd that he comments on his hands, but, it is what it is. Like, he's okay, interesting enough. Like, I still am interested in it. Yeah, so at night again, then he hears music coming from downstairs. And when he goes down to check it out, this is like the Bonkers thing. Is like Bonkers jumps out and scares him, which causes him to wake his parents. And they're just kind of like, oh, you heard Bonkers. You must have heard Bonkers, or Bonkers touched the piano or something. And please stop waking us up. Please stop obsessing over this sound you're hearing in the night. So the next day, it's at school, and he meets Kim Lee Chin, who is about the only other character in this book. And basically he tells her, he's trying to sound cool, and he tells her that he just moved in, he found this piano, and tells her about Dr. Shriek, and she kind of just gets scared and runs off. So there's no real explanation this time. She just, as soon as he mentions the school and Dr. Shriek, she kind of freaks out and runs away, and he's just like, what is happening, right? Like, he's new to the town, doesn't really know anyone, doesn't really know what's going on. So Shriek comes over again, again is just kind of showing him a couple of things, comments that he has excellent hands, and then he tells him to play this kind of Bach piece and just keeps going faster and faster and faster, and Jerry can't keep up and he doesn't know what's going on, and then he wakes up and it's a dream. Again, another big trope that you write down. How many weird scenes in the books are chalked up to dreams? I mean, I feel like he did it originally because of Say Cheese and Die, when he had to add that part about the skeletons, and he did it by adding a dream sequence. And I wonder if he's like, oh, that works. Like, that's a way to kind of just write something crazy and freaky, but it doesn't actually happen, and we stay in the realm of realism, which, most of these books then end up not staying in that realm, but maybe for that moment it does. But yeah, he hears music again, and when he goes down and looks at the piano, he actually sees a ghost, a ghostly form sitting at the piano. So he's pretty freaked out, and then the ghost turns and tells him that this is her house and to stay away from the piano, and then kind of like vanishes, and he freaks out and calls for his parents. Ghost is obviously gone when they get there. They think it's a prank again. They're not having it. This is a couple nights in a row. He's doing the same thing, and he's just escalating the story each time. So of course, his parents, you think he's faking. So at this point, they want to send Jerry to a shrink. They think that the move is negatively affecting him, that it's giving him bad dreams, that he's just, because he's had so much change, that he's just kind of getting worse and making up stories, or really thinking that these things happen just because hasn't adjusted to the move. So then Shriek comes again with the excellent hands, and this time he's like, "Yep, I see promise in you. You've shown you've done a little bit of improvement since last time," and so he agrees to take him to the school. He then meets the therapist, tells him about the ghost, and basically the doctor doesn't believe him and thinks it's stress. This is a really throwaway part of the book. I'm pretty positive the shrink never comes back up, and it's just another person of like, "Oh, I don't believe you. Like, you're just stressed." But it would work in, say, an episode or something where we aren't seeing all of Jerry's perspective. But at this point, we know he saw a ghost. So it's kind of like, it would work if you were trying to build it up of like, oh, did he or did he not? One of those things of like, is this person actually losing it or is it real? And you can kind of guess through at the end, and then it's one or the other. This one, we know he's fine and that he's seeing it. So it doesn't really work. The therapist part, is just a throwaway to me. Probably just a little padding. So his mom takes him out to the school. It's in the middle of nowhere. They have to drive pretty far away. It's kind of like out in the woods, isolated from everything. And the mom leaves him there, and it's far enough that she just goes and runs errands while he's there. So he goes in. It's a huge building, and he just kind of wanders around and gets lost. Wait, hold on. Did I miss a part? No, maybe not. There's another part with Kim, but I think it's later. So he's lost in the school, and then he's just kind of like walking past room and seeing all these instructors and like hearing piano, but he can't really see what's going on inside. He can't really see the other students, and all of a sudden, a machine comes near him, and it's kind of chasing him. He thinks it's going to attack him, and it turns out to be a floor sweeper. So just a robotic floor sweeper, and right behind him is a man named Mr. Toggle, it turns out that Mr. Toggle made it, and he talks about how he's kind of this, he's the janitor there. I think Mr. Shriek stops it, and then he tells him, "Hey, it's just a machine and our janitor. Mr. Toggle made it, and he's just a whiz with these kind of things." And so then he's like, "Yep, don't worry about it. Like, sorry, that you got scared by it. It's just a machine." Takes him to the room, and they have their lesson. So on the way out, he gets lost again, and Mr. Toggle finds him and kind of grabs him and spooks him. But he's apologetic, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like next time, you're here. Like, if you come a little early, like I can show you some of the inventions and kind of show you stuff. Like, sorry you got scared by my sweeper, kind of deal." So seems like a very, very nice guy. Dr. Shriek is always kind of displayed as a little kind of kooky and out there, and so Mr. Toggle's kind of like just this nicer guy. Like helps him find his way out, and wishes him the best, and again tells him he'll show him some inventions next time. So the parents want to see what he's learned. But as he's playing, something else starts banging the keys, and so they get annoyed and they think he's just messing around and not taking it serious. There's no illusion of anything else there, so I guess this ghost, I assume it's the ghost, can just be invisible and still be able to touch the piano and affect it. But yeah, it basically hits the notes and then makes Jerry look stupid, and his parents again are just kind of upset with him. So for the next lesson, he goes to the next lesson again, and Toggle shows him around, shows him kind of all the electronics that he's made. Um, and as he's kind of going to the next lesson, he hears somebody crying. He doesn't know what it is, and he kind of goes into the lesson, and he never quite figures out where it was coming from, but he's just kind of a little weirded out that he heard it. So then he goes back, and he's at school again. He sees Kim again, she tells him that there's monsters. Like, the reason she ran away is kind of like the Shriek School of Music is, there's just legends about it, that there's monsters there, and that kids go there and disappear. And so, he kind of explains, like, oh, I've seen I go there, I've seen the monster. It's like it's a floor sweeper, and he just he just makes all these machines and stuff, and it's not that bad. And I've gone there twice, and I'm fine. He invites her inside, and he was kind of telling her about the piano, and it starts playing, and he's like, oh my god, it's the ghost, and somebody else is going to see it. And it turns out it's just Bonkers playing on the keys. So, basically, I can't remember exactly. I think Kim just is like, this is stupid, and she leaves, and we never see her again. So she's just kind of a plot device to tell us that, there's stories about Shriek School. Doesn't add too much. That night, he sees the ghost again, and she says, oh, the stories you hear are true about that school. Like, the school's a terrible place. And then she reveals that she has no hands. So this is a big kind of point in it, and she kind of holds up her arms, and she has no hands. He freaks out and passes out, I believe, or just wakes his parents, but he kind of has like a breakdown and says that he wants to quit the lessons. The ghost is scare him. The ghost is like, stay away from that place. It's bad. I have no hands. And freaks him out. And his parents are like, yeah, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but you do have to go there and tell them in person. You have to, you wanted to do this. You put the time in. They've taken the time to set you up and put you into school. So you need to quit. He doesn't want to, but they're adamant about it. So he goes back and he tells Dr. Shriek that he wants to quit, and Dr. Shriek starts freaking out and saying that he needs his hands. And then so he runs off and he runs away, and he's lost this big school, and Dr. Shriek's kind of chasing them, and he eventually winds up in a room with a bunch of instruments playing, and they were being played by just hands. There's no bodies. When he'd looked in the room before and they saw the instructors, it was just hands playing. So he's startled by this and kind of stops, and Shriek catches up with him and grabs him. But Toggle shows up and turns him off. So it turns out that everything in this school is a robot, is the big reveal. So Dr. Shriek is a robot. All the other instructors he saw are robots. But then he reveals that the hands technically do come from people who are learning piano lessons. So Toggle kind of goes on that it's hard to create hands and make them correct robotically. So what he does is he actually cuts off people's hands, which is why we saw the ghost without hands as well. And he can then he can like make music, and like he just loves the music, and he thinks it's one of the purest things. So he's using all these hands for it. And so it seemed so nice before, but he's actually the villain of the story. And so Toggle, again, just like Dr. Shriek was like, hey, like, I'm going to need those hands. Which is just, again, you kind of see it throughout that they just keep saying that he has excellent hands. And so kind of the twist at the end is that, like, they want his hands. And they're going to take him off similar to the ghost. That's what happened to the ghost. Why they don't have any hands is they're one of those sets. But then the ghost actually shows up, and all the other ghosts kind of appear as well and grab Toggle, and Jerry just runs, and he just kind of hears them attacking him, and I think Toggle screaming, and he just leaves and he runs away, and that's the end of the story. So there's a lot in this book, but I do think a decent chunk of it is filler. The whole part with the therapist is just irrelevant to the story. He comes in once, doesn't believe him, just says it's stress, doesn't add anything to the book at all. Same with Kim. Like, she adds a bit more. I don't mind her being in the story, kind of revealing the story of the school, and just adding a little extra, like, oh, like somebody else is going to believe me with bonkers, I think is fine. So she's not that bad. Her parts are all right, but again, mostly irrelevant to the story. The ghost basically tells them the same thing right after. So I do like the ghost scenes and kind of the building of it, of just the music, and then seeing her, and then seeing that she doesn't have hands, that kind of building thing. Dr. Shriek is written well. He's creepy, but you're kind of like, is he just eccentric, or what's going on with this guy? Toggle is well written. Again, he just seems like a really nice guy who, kind of at the end too, when Dr. Shriek grabs him and Toggle kind of saves him, you're like, oh, phew, like Shriek was the bad guy and Toggle saved him, and like that was going to be the end. And then just having the little extra one chapter twist of Toggle actually being the mastermind and creating all the robots and everything, I think was pretty good. So yeah, I mean, as a whole, I would give this book an A. I really like the premise. I think of like all the books I've read so far, this is definitely up there in a premise of book for me. The taking of the hands, and kind of that idea behind it, the creepy school and the evil robotic. Like I love the story here. Again, it's one of those ones, like, obviously it's kind of in the realm of impossible. It has the ghosts, which doesn't make sense, and turning hands robotic is odd as well. But it doesn't bother me in this case. I've said it before, like a lot of supernatural stories I just don't get as on board with. They're not really my style. I like things that have been grounded in truth, but this is one that I feel works enough with that truth and having the supernatural that it doesn't ruin the story for me. But the story is brought down by the fact that it just seems to have a lot of filler. And again, I don't know that it had any other choice. Like, it still had him be scared by the piano 4 times. It had him go to the school twice. I honestly think they could have got rid of the therapist and maybe just put his relationship with Kim growing a bit. Where like if he had seen her again before going to the school and she told him that it was freaky and he was kind of scared going the first time there because of that, and then he's like, oh no, actually I was there and it's fine, and oh, those monsters people talk about are just machines, then it'd be, I think that would have floated a little better, and it wouldn't have made her part seem a little less kind of just filler, and a little more fleshed out, and then got rid of the therapist, which was definitely filler. And also the end is a little weak to me. I kind of wish that the ghost hadn't got there and he just, either he got away or it ended on a dark note where we don't know, if he gets away, kind of deal. I think that would have been better. I think this one just, it makes no sense to me why the ghost finally at that time decided enough is enough and attack him, or how they're getting from, the house, or why he was even at the house anyways, if it was presumably killed at this school, which is pretty far away. So the end, I think, and again, right, like, it's a kid's book, you don't want to have too many of them on, like, creepy cliffhangers, but he's definitely done it before. I'm trying to think offhand of ones that were like that. I mean, Night of the Living Dummy did kind of, right, like, Slappy comes alive, so you got that. Cheese and Die kind of has them finding it, which is somewhat like that. The rest, not really. I mean, Basement kind of has the fake flower freak out thing, but yeah, that's not the same. So I think it almost would have been fine if like Toggle kind of grabbed him and that's how it ended. Or again, he gets out, but it's just kind of like that, he hears just laughter coming from inside and the piano music swelling or something like that. I think it would have been a little better end. It just kind of feels abrupt where the ghosts grab him out of nowhere and he runs outside. So all that keeps it from an S, but from an actual story premise, I think it's a great premise. I think parts of it are well told. I think the characters, for the most part, are well fleshed out and interesting. Jerry's kind of a little jerk, but he's still pretty good character in the end. As for the cover, I will also give this one an A. Honestly, the colors in it is one of my favorites so far. Like the reds and purples really speak to me. The keys look great. Kind of the shine off the piano looks great. The thing I don't like about this book is I remember as a kid I picked this up and I knew what the ending was going to be, and that was the big problem. Is you want to have some kind of relation to the story, but this is the twist. Like, you know, and some people might look at this and go, "Oh, whatever." Like the picture doesn't always match. Like it is what it is. But to me, this one was just too obvious that okay, like as soon as I remember as a kid, I'm like, oh, like you know, piano lessons can be murder. Like, are they? It's got just loose hands. Like, did they take the hands? And then the first time Doctor Shriek came and he said, "Excellent hands." I'm like, yeah, he's taking those hands. That is going to happen. And I read this as a kid, so it was obvious to me back then that it is what it is. But it's still an amazing. If I was rating it just on the picture alone, it'd be an S. But just because it kind of ruined the twist to me, it's got to sit at an A. Yeah, so that's Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Pretty good story overall. A's for both. No real complaints. I enjoyed rereading that one. And next up will be The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, which is kind of an interesting one as well because it was, again, like Let's Be Invisible, or, sorry, not Let's Get Invisible. The Ghost Next Door is one of the lower books where I didn't remember much about the book at all. So it was mostly a new read to me. We're getting to that point where some of them I remember well, but it's kind of that thing of like, unless I owned it now, like I think I owned most of them under 10, but the rest I was probably getting from the library, and so some I'd read once and maybe never get again, and some, just stuck with me more, or I borrowed it more than once, or maybe a friend had it, so I borrowed it off them, and so I could read it a couple more times. But yeah, we will get to my thoughts on that one. So thank you for everyone for sticking around. Feel free to check out the other ones I have. I am thinking of maybe mixing in a different book series at the same time as well. Just got a lot of Goosebumps, but I do have a couple other series that I'd love to, reread some of my classics like The Kid. I read the bigger books as well, but reading these ones are nice and short and they're simple. Especially sometimes after a long day of doing stuff, it's nice just to kind of read something digestible. So we'll see if I mix that in. I want to make sure I have more time to make these videos and don't kind of go on hiatus again for a bit. But hopefully we'll get to.
Thanks for watching. Please click to check out my other videos, like and subscribe, and come by Twitch under Floyd Mason to join my live streams.